Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Business Growth Show, where we talk about all components of business and how to utilize them for exponential growth. My name is Athin Cassiotis. I'm a serial entrepreneur, international speaker, results strategist, business coach, mentor, and consultant. Today, I have an awesome guest. He's the co-founder and CEO of SWISH Sales Coaching, a multi-award-winning business owner, ethical sales coach, trainer, Keynote speaker, and Shark Tank winner. He has coached and trained over 6,500 businesses and individuals across 5 continents and has shown his clients how to close over $1 billion in new sales revenue in the last few years alone. He is passionately changing the perception of sales through SWISH. Welcome, Ryan Tuckwood, and thank you for being on my show.
Athin, absolute pleasure, mate. I don't know how I follow that energy. I feel like you're going to pass out in a minute. But I love that. And really, really excited to be here and hopefully share some nuggets of gold and a little bit of value to your audience.
Awesome, mate. It's awesome to have you here. And I love starting my show with energy, and we'll let it flow naturally where we go from there. So, you're a very successful entrepreneur. So for those people who don't know who you are, please introduce yourself by telling us about you and your journey.
Okay. So, I guess we can go all the way back to the UK. People would have got my accent already. I was born in a place called Leicester in the UK, now famous for our football team or soccer team to some people, depending on where you're listening to this. But I was actually an engineer in the UK for 8 years, mechanical maintenance engineer. And I did that from the age of 19 to 27. Never really loved it, but was very good at it in the fact that I'm quite meticulous. I'm a bit of a perfectionist. I've got OCD. So being an engineer kind of suited me down to the ground. But I got, like most people, I got to the age of 27 and I had what I call my quarter life crisis, where I started to wonder whether there was more out there for me and whether this was it, right? I was very comfortable. I was very settled. Financially, I was in a decent position. Drove a nice car, owned a house, had a girlfriend of 5 years, Siberian Husky and all of that jazz. So I was the successful one in my family. But for all intents and purposes, I was just like unfulfilled, I guess would be a good word to use. I was achieving, but I was unfulfilled. So I decided to pack it all in. I broke up with my girlfriend at the time, who was, and still is, a really lovely woman. But I decided I was going to jump on a plane, move to Australia. This is in 2010. With no idea what I was going to do. And I wound up initially in Sydney. I lived in Manly for a short amount of time, like every good British backpacker. Had a bit of fun there. We'll skip that. And then I traveled up the East Coast to Cairns, traveled all the way down, and then got to the Gold Coast. And I fell in love with the Gold Coast pretty quickly. I met a few lads that played football, and that very quickly became my new home, and they became my new family. My issue, I think, was that as a backpacker, I struggled to find work because you can only work for one company for 6 months. And I ended up falling into sales for the very first time, which was a cold call environment. So I don't know if have you ever done that? You ever done cold calling?
Yeah, I've done cold calling, mate. It's definitely an interesting one on the mindset.
Isn't it just? Yeah. So, well, you know yourself then, there's a lot of rejection and a lot of abuse as well that comes with it. So, but my job was to pick up the phone 300 times in a day and in 90 seconds, find out if people had $15,000 to $25,000 in their bank. And you can only imagine the amount of abuse that I was getting each day, probably 298 times a day being told to go away in no uncertain terms. And after a while, it just really started to get to me in the respect of I wasn't very good at it. I wasn't making any money. I am naturally an introvert by nature. Like I'm not really a socialite. I didn't really command to be in a speaking environment, let alone be on podcasts or interviews or stages like I do now. And I started to get like a level of anxiety and almost depression around going into the office each day. And it culminated with me having 31 cents in my bank, sleeping on one of my friend's bathroom floors on the Gold Coast. And I was sleeping there for 6 weeks in this windowless box of a bathroom. And I decided to quit. And the day that I quit, I approached my manager at the time, who ended up being the co-founder of this business. And I just told him that sales wasn't for me, that sales is for the extroverts and people that have got the gift of the gab. And that was my true belief at the time. And as I said that to him, he basically set me a challenge. He said to me, firstly, I'm not going to let you quit because I don't think you've truly given this a good go. And I want you to commit to learning, or at least trying to learn this for the next 2 months, for the next 60 days. I've since found out that it takes an average of 66 days to form habits. And I did. And he said, if you do this for the next 66 days or 60 days and you haven't moved, you've not gone from 21st out of 21 people, you haven't at least worked your way up the sales ladder, then I'll pay for you and my girlfriend at the time, Alicia, to go wherever you want. You want to go back to the UK, you want to go to New Zealand, which is where she's from, I'll pay for that. And I ended up going from 21st to 1st in 5 weeks. Within 18 months, I was running the whole team. I did $334,000 in commissions in the next year. And my whole world just changed. And it changed twofold, not just financially, but also I had the biggest realization about sales and communication that I didn't comprehend before, that just like engineering, it's a learned skill. There are ways that we can speak to other human beings that can directly impact the response they have to you. And I just went, I can't be the only introvert that is failing right now in a role that just requires them to have some better communication skills. And that's when in 2014, Jack and I broke away and we created Swish, what is now known as Swish Sales Coaching, with a mission to change the perception of sales. Obviously, Swish is selling with integrity, selling honestly. And I guess you could then fast forward all the way to today. And as you quite rightly said at the start, nearly 7,000 clients now later, it's working. And we're actually unearthing some gems and some people that are reaching the potential that they didn't even know they had. And that's really exciting.
Yeah. Awesome, mate. Such an amazing story. And I love that, you had to go through some pain at the start. That's normally where it happens. And then somebody believes in you, you get shown an opportunity or a new way of doing things. And it's, credit to you that you took that with both hands and, you made the most of it. And that's obviously helped you along your path to where you've gotten today. And so, yeah, well done for that. And, I guess one thing you didn't touch on as much there was you're actually very successful in Shark Tank, right? Where many people watch Shark Tank on TV, which is amazing to, and to actually be successful and everything like that. So initially, for people that probably don't know, what was it like to be part of Shark Tank as well?
I guess to your point, firstly, of why I don't touch on it too much, because I don't like it to define where we are as a business. We were already moving ahead at quite a decent pace. We'd won a few awards. We had a non-for-profit recruitment arm to the business where we trained new salespeople or people that wanted to improve their sales ability. We then placed them into employment totally free of charge. And that gave us an ability to prove ourselves as sales trainers en masse to different businesses. So the Shark Tank thing was just really just escalated our growth, if you will, and accelerated our growth and validated what we were doing as English sales trainers on the Gold Coast. That should raise sales defenses in itself. So the experience, totally different experience, I think, for me and Jack. Jack is a lot more confident than I am in that sort of environment. I didn't want to go on it. I thought it was a crazy idea in respect of we were going well. We had a good reputation. Why would we go on TV and risk losing everything? Like we're supposed to be these high-flying sales and negotiation trainers. What if we don't succeed? The whole business should fail. Whereas Jack had a blind faith in everything that he did and still does, and gave me and us the nudge that we needed. So in the moment, terrifying for me, super nervous, but one of the best decisions that Jack has ever made and encouraged me to be a part of as well. The Sharks have been amazing. They've since increased their stake in the business. We still have interactions with them every single week, and they are still heavily involved. So really, really good.
Yeah, awesome, mate. And yeah, definitely from like a branding sense, right? Like to be on there, and if that's apart from the investment and the things that come out of it, it's definitely something that differentiates you guys. So that's awesome. And obviously you've got, three sharks. Like people are lucky to get one shark, and you guys got three. So that's obviously testament to, to your business model and what you guys are doing, which is amazing. And, for those people who don't know who they are, they're the Australian entrepreneur powerhouses of Dr. Glenn Richards, Steve Baxter and Andrew Banks. And they've got what's really interesting is they've got a variety of, I guess, skills, right? So what's it like to have them on your team, and and what do they bring, I guess, to your business?
Well, yeah, you're right. I mean, we were acutely aware that no one in the history of the show, not in Australia anyway, had got 3 sharks before. So during the negotiation phase, when Jack and I were out the back, that was part of our decision making process. Are we prepared to release more equity to be the first company in the history to get 3? And there's pros and cons to that, because what do they bring? They all bring something different, which comes with challenges, right? They don't always agree with each other. So we use them sporadically, and we use them for different areas of the business. So Andrew Banks, obviously a very, very strong recruitment background. He was the founder of Morgan & Banks, the first billion-dollar recruitment agency out of Australia in the 90s. So very, very good at the hiring process and the scaling of personnel. Dr. Glenn Richards, the founding managing director of Green Cross Vets and then Pet Barn. So 6,000 staff, 600 stores. He knows about putting systems in place, daily structures, disciplines, balancing family time as well. He's got a young family. So how does he have a portfolio of 20 plus businesses whilst bringing up young children? So I wanted to learn that as a new father. And then Steve Baxter, the ex-Queensland chief entrepreneur, strong tech background. And we've got for want of a better phrase, we do have a SaaS business now. We've got an on-demand online sales training program. So he knew about building out user experience and technology, and then being able to scale that globally. And Andrew's obviously, well, not obviously, but Andrew's got business in America as well. So that's where we're moving into the States and into the UK. So yeah, they all brought something a little bit different. And I think we've had to learn over the last 2 years, how and when do we get the best out of them, as opposed to bringing everybody together all the time and then just getting brain fog because I just don't know who to listen to. And it just gets a little bit convoluted.
Yeah, cool, mate. Yeah, thanks for sharing that. And yeah, amazing variety of skills there that you guys get. And I'm sure that's just catapulted your business. Like you said, you already had momentum, but it's just giving you that extra fuel in the tank, basically, to get it to that next level a lot quicker than what you would do otherwise.
That's a good point. Like the fuel that it gives you, the belief in your own model. When you get 3 people like that, and bearing in mind, this is what I was very naive, right? So I thought we go on Shark Tank. One of them says yes, fingers crossed, and then they turn the cameras off. You go out the back, and they give you some money. Like I thought, we'd never raised capital before, so I wasn't overly aware of a due diligence process. And these guys rip your business apart for like 6 months after the show before you officially get the money and they actually sign anything. And then they go into your own personal life and your own background. So once 3 people have done that, all of their teams have done that, and then they come out the other side and go, this is good. This is a good business. That has to put fire in your belly and give you that vote of confidence. I think that's what it did. Yeah, awesome, mate. I love that. And, your results and everything are showing for that. So that's really awesome. And, you've created, Swish selling, right? So maybe you touched on it a little bit before, but maybe go into a little bit more about what it stands for and how it came about. It came about, if I go to, there was a pivotal moment in my sales career where I was selling very well. I was making a lot of money, but I was being forced or encouraged by the old owners of the company I worked at previously, I won't name them, to sell in a way that didn't feel comfortable to me. And it was very much high pressure and almost bully-like tactics. And that wasn't who I was. So I was continuing to do it my way, which is a lot more consultative and relationship-based. And even though I was top salesperson, they were still trying to get me to go the other way. And then there was a real definitive moment. It was a Saturday morning. I was in the office and nobody else was in there. And the phone rang, and we were never really encouraged to answer the phones. It was just like, let the phones go. Reception will get that, and they'll direct it wherever it needs to go. But there was no reception in, so I picked up the phone. And it was an elderly lady that I'd brought on board a couple of months before for, I forget, but I think it was $15,000 was the service that she paid for. And she was in tears that she hadn't had any communication since I'd spoke to her. And I'm like, well, that's strange because it says here on the system that people have reached out to you and so forth. And she was like, Ryan, I promise you, nobody's reached out. And I'm like, what the hell? And I got this like sick feeling in my stomach that I'd brought somebody on board. Obviously started thinking about my own nan and people taking money off her. And so then I started to ring a couple of my other clients that I brought on board in recent months, and same story. Hadn't heard from anybody. The product was working, but not necessarily in the fashion that we were explaining that it was. And I'm like, oh my God, am I working for a company that's just ripping people off here? And I went home to Alicia, and I like had this like, not an episode, but like I got really emotional, and I'm like, I can't do this anymore. Something's fundamentally wrong. So I went in on the Monday and I just quit. And I just thought, why can't business? And I started to see, the Gold Coast is known for it, but I'm not saying it's only the Gold Coast. There's lots of places around Australia, around the world, that have people that are not doing right by clients, unfortunately. And I thought, why can't people just create a product, charge a decent rate for it, the value they deserve for it, and actually service their clients as well? Why does it have to be all front end and non-customer focused? So me and Jack had a conversation after he'd left a few months before. I said, I want to create a business that actually just creates world-class and elite salespeople that are good people as well, that actually do want to do right by people. And that's where Swish was born. And we started to brainstorm what that training might look like. What was our knowledge at the time? What would a curriculum look like? And then over the years, it's evolved a lot. And now we break it down into 5 core principles. We keep the acronym SWISH, and it's state of mind, firstly, is the first S. So it's how can we get people in the right headspace and the right mindset to want to learn and to want to understand a different approach to selling. The W is winning first impressions. So whether that be via Zoom, over the phone, or face-to-face. The I is identifying all different personas. So we go deep into emotional intelligence, behavioral science, the psychology behind human behaviors. The second S is securing clients for life. So closing, follow-up, objection handling. And then the H is harnessing a world-class culture. So like daily structures, discipline, leadership techniques, and so forth. So we wanted to create something that was more than just how to build rapport and overcome objections. Like that, every sales course should have that. We wanted this to be a lifestyle change that people made, not just a training course. And that has just been adopted at pace over the years. And obviously last year through COVID, and still this year as well, of course, with people adopting online training even more, it just escalated.
Yeah, awesome, mate. I love that. And it's amazing to hear, like, there's always some type of pivotal shift that happens, right? So thanks for sharing that moment. And, you know, that's all that you needed sometimes. As much of it was a potential bad situation, but it bred the new journey for you guys. And look what, you know, you guys have created. And thanks for breaking that down, because I definitely agree that a lot of those different elements are all important, right? Because there's a lot of different things that we need to do in business and in the sales, you know, the sales process and that. And initially, I guess one thing, you know, a lot of people have, right, and I'm sure you hear this as well, is that there's a bad meaning on sales, right, due to their experiences in the past or with their family or whatever it is, whether it's the car sales guy or all these other things, right? So how do you help people overcome this?
As in the stigma?
Yeah.
Yeah. So the way it's not really my lesson. I got taught it a few years ago from a mentor. And it's really to understand that you're doing people a disservice if you don't have these skills to get your product or service into their hands. So the easy example is if you've got a business and you're phenomenal at what you do and the service that you deliver, and you sit down, you have a consultation with somebody, and at the end of it, they say, yeah, no, I'm going to go and use XYZ, like one of your competitors. And you know categorically that they're going to get a substandard service for what they're going to pay. They might pay less money, but they're going to get a substandard service, right? You are having a detrimental effect on their life because you had an inability to have the skills to communicate your value. That's ultimately what not making a sale is, right? So we have a duty of care to our clients to have the skills to firstly communicate the value. And then we also have a responsibility to give people an elegant nudge if required for their own benefit. Because I've had that done to me many times over the years. My public speaking coach would be a prime example. I was sitting on the fence umming and ahhing on whether I have public speaking training. And he was like, Ryan, we're doing this. You need to do that. And it's quite a substantial investment. And he's like, we're doing this because you're telling me you want to have impact around the world. You want to share your message. We're doing this. 18 months later, I'm emceeing for Jordan Belfort in front of 1,100 people in Sydney and Melbourne. And before that, I would only speak to 3 people, terrified of the stage. Right. So he did me a service by taking my money, if that makes sense. And I think that's what I'm always trying to communicate. So I want to get to the root cause of why they started their business in the first place. And for them to recognize then, okay, well, if that's the case and you truly believe what you do, you have a responsibility to learn these skills.
Yeah, I love that, mate. I completely agree with you. And I see sales as the most important skill in business, because if we have an amazing, like you said, product or service, and people out there want and need it, it's our duty to learn how to sell well, right? And it's really just a process, right, of going through with people so that they, like you said, can see the value in what we do. As long as we know that we're providing something that's really needed, it's going to get people results in whatever way that it is, then, you know, it's our own fault, if our business doesn't succeed from there. And that's why, as entrepreneurs, especially, right, when we're starting a business, it's really important for us to do this, right? Because that's what's going to get the business off the ground and running. And eventually you can obviously get sales staff and that in, but to get it initially off the ground while you're not, hiring many people, then, really important that we do that as well.
We always say sales dictates operations, and without sales, business fails. So most businesses start with one person, and it starts with an idea, and maybe it's something that you've created, or something that you've experienced before, and you're like, oh, I like that. I'm going to go and deliver that to the market. And just because you've got a great idea, even just because you've got a great product, it won't sell itself. We say you can't sell a secret. And there's still these great ideas right now that are just suppressed because people fear learning sales to be able to communicate what they do better, because they don't want to be seen as a salesperson. And they just rely on hope marketing and hopefully the product will just sell itself when nobody actually knows what it is. Yeah,
so many awesome points, mate. I love that, and so true. And I think you touched on it before, where sales is not only in business. Yes, it's very important in business, but like, to me, it's actually in life as well, right? Where we got to use things to get our point across and seeing value and stuff like that. So I'd like to hear your take on that, about how it's used in different situations as well.
There's literally every single scenario, right? Even down to communicating with your kids and trying to get your kids to go to bed or eat their dinner. It's not the most positive of stories, but I'll share it maybe to put it into perspective. There was a guy that I coached. I won't name him. He worked for a real estate company, a development company, sorry. And I gave the example like I just did with you about doing people a disservice if you don't have these skills. And he was working over in America once, and he was doing, Camp America, where the kids go to summer camps. And so he would meet the parents. The parents would come for an interview. He would say, okay, well, you can put your kid on this summer camp for the next 6 weeks, and it's going to cost you $570, whatever it is, right? And he said he had this family, and what the boy or the teenager was obese, and he said he needed to do this summer camp. It was actually going to help him, and he was going to lose weight. And the parents just said, "Oh no, it's too expensive. We can't afford to put him through it." Anyway, long story short, that kid ended up committing suicide during that summer through bullying and whatever else was going on. And the guy said to this day, he beats himself up because he didn't have the ability to get his parents to pay $500 to put the kid on that summer camp, which it might not, but it might have saved him, right? So that's a real life scenario of where having a sales skill is literally life changing. Another one could be practical areas like booking a restaurant. But you want to book a restaurant on a Saturday night. Here's a little challenge for anybody listening. Look at the busiest restaurant in your suburb this Saturday. Do not try and book it until 7 o'clock on Saturday. Say you're going to be there at 8 o'clock and see if you can get a table, right? I promise you I'll be able to get a table, because your ability to build rapport with that person over the phone within the first 4.5 to 7 seconds and endear yourself to somebody so much just through your tone of voice that they actually want to find a way to accommodate you, that's selling. So selling isn't always, hey, here's here's my insurance policy, you want to buy it. Here's a house, you want to buy it. Selling is actually just getting somebody to come along with your train of thought, or to assist you in some way, shape, or form. Trying to get upgrades at hotels because the person on the front desk just likes you so much, they want to help you out. It's in everything that we do, right? Recruitment, job interviews, working you up the corporate ladder. How can you be recent and frequent and add value to your employer so that when a job option becomes available, they don't put it to the outside market, they keep it internal and you're the front of the list as well. Loads of scenarios.
Yeah, so awesome, mate. Thank you for sharing that. And I hope everybody realizes that, how important it is to really, get those things. And I love the challenge as well. I'm going to try that very soon as well when we're heading out. And very true. I like the little tips you gave there as well. So awesome, mate. Thank you for that. And I think there's a lot of things in sales, right? It's not that complex realistically, right? Once you learn the process, and it's a bit of repetition and things like that. But obviously people can make mistakes, right? Like initially, it's sort of like a learned process. You got to sort of do it for a little while and you find your way. So what are some of the biggest mistakes you see people doing in sales?
They have the wrong intent initially. So the intent for most people is to make a sale. So they go into the interaction, they come on to even something like this. They come into the interaction not to build a relationship. They come in to try and make a sale and impress somebody instead of just going, what value can I bring? So I always say that your intent is not to make a sale. Your intent is to find out whether a sale should be made. So literally emotionally detaching yourself away from the outcome and saying, okay, well, imagine you got a commission on purely saying this person can benefit from my services. That's it. That's all you got to find out. There's a 10-point checklist, and all you got to do is make sure they tick all of them off and you'll get your commission. Would you ask different questions? Would you go deeper? Would you build more of a relationship to get that information out of them? So if they're not opening up to you, but you're going to get your commission after you tick those 10 things off, would you change your questioning? Would you try connect with them deeper? Yeah, of course you would. So the intent is wrong for sure. That's probably that's a huge one. Another one is not giving enough options. So as human beings, we like options. We're conditioned to seek out 3 quotes for certain things. And what I see a lot when I shadow people or I go through their sales process is they come to a conclusion at the end of their consult and they go, okay, so this is what we've got. And it's just one option. So as a consumer, I'm now going to go away and get 2 more options elsewhere. So we teach what we call middle offering syndrome, where we know that over 80% of people are conditioned to choose the middle option of 3. So as long as we do training on packaging, presentation, and pricing. And whenever we do packaging and we create 3 options, I can guarantee you're going to increase your average transaction value just because people will choose the middle one instead of the bottom one. So there's a couple of ways. Oh, and the last one there's a big gripe of mine is not following up. Just follow up. That I think it's been spoken about on every single sales interview since the dawn of time. We know that over 80% of sales are made between the 5th and the 12th touch point. Just do it. But when you're doing it, do it with value. So lead in by being recent, frequent, front of mind and adding value, not just saying, hey, I was just touching base, seeing how you're going. How do you get on with that proposal? We've got 30 different ways to do that. You got to be creative. And whether that's on social posts, sending a personalized letter, sending gifts, connecting with their influencers and their network, there's many ways you can follow up. Yeah, awesome, mate. So many awesome points there that you shared with everyone. And maybe if we just touch a little bit more on the follow-up one, right? So definitely, I completely agree. It's like one of the most important things because you don't always get everybody straight away. How often, or how long should it take? Do you think like a couple of days? What do you think is a good amount of time? It can be subjective, obviously, depending on what you're selling. But what are your thoughts on that? $1 million question, right? It's it really depends on the ticket item of what you're selling. I mean, we've got products and programs from like $350 to $1 million plus. So if I've got I'm going for a tender process or a procurement process or working for a sales enablement team, I might give them a week between the first interaction. But if I'm profiling somebody just to join our academy for 3.5, I'm calling them the next day. I'm having 5 touch points in the first day. And those touch points are phone call. Straight after the phone call, I'm sending you a calendar invite for the next appointment. then I'm sending you an email summary, then I'm adding you on LinkedIn, and then I'm sending you a text message in the evening. There's 5 touch points in the same day, but every single one of them adds value to you. I don't ask you to do anything. So I'm recent and frequent with people ghosting you or not getting back to you, which is also pretty frequent. I put a video out on my Instagram actually recently about this, and people loved it. I talk about our line in the sand text message. So it's not so much knowing how frequent to touch base with people. It's understanding when people are in your optimum buying window. And what I mean by that is, depending again on what your price is for your product, like we know low ticket items anywhere up to $10,000, we can get somebody over the line within 3 to 5 days. So if I've got somebody looking at a $10,000 service of ours and they're on day 6, they're now outside of our buying window. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So at that point, they're getting my line in the sand message, and it goes a little bit like this. So Athin, listen, it's been a pleasure having a conversation with you for the last few days. But the last thing I want to do is keep chasing you on something you've got absolutely no interest in. So whether it is a yes or a no, I will have a small window available tomorrow, either 11 or 2 o'clock. We can make an educated decision together. If it's a no, I'll fully respect that. You can focus on what you need to focus on. Alternatively, if it's a yes, let's get the ball rolling. Sound fair? That's it. All right. You send that out to everybody every time they get outside of your buying window. You will bring to life your genuine buyers, and everybody else you can just stop wasting your time on. Because otherwise we spend so much time wasting time on people that we're never going to buy and never be converted. And you shouldn't be trying to convince people to use your services. There's enough people out there that you can just focus on the attention of the ones that need your genuine attention.
Yeah, I love that, mate. So many amazing points there. And, a lot of people that do sell under that amount can definitely take a lot from that. And, it shows how knowing your numbers as well, right, as part of it is really important. So you guys understand the buying cycle, how long it takes, and when to do certain things, right? So that timing of things, and you can obviously measure that in your business, right? Like if you on the clients that you get, it's like how quickly did you get them, right? And the clients that you missed out on, you can see that it probably took a lot longer, right, in the process. So measure that yourselves and see where it goes from there.
Yeah, well, I think it was Google have got what they call their 0 moment of truth, which suggests how many touch points somebody needs in 2021 before they get to a stage of fully trusting you. And touch points are based around, that could be emails, it could be seeing you on social, seeing a Google ad, or whatever it may be. And this has grown massively over the last few years. I don't know the exact figure these days, but I know it's upwards of 20. They need to see you more than 20 times before they get to a level of trust. So for us, we know that our average touch points before a sale are 6. So if I get 5 in on the first day, 5 different touch points across all different, so text message, LinkedIn, email, phone call, Calendly, there's 5 different touch points across 5 different mediums. And then the next morning, we send you what we call a content of value, which is an email with a video of some education, so some free training. There's our 6 touch points in the first 24 hours. By the time we get them onto a demonstration or whatever the next step is, they're pretty warm.
Yeah, definitely, mate. I love that. So much value being given. And that's what it all comes down to, right? Everyone is how much value are we giving the people, right? It's all about value, like whether it's on socials, right? Initially about giving value out, and then in the process, like Ryan's been saying, about all those little touch points and the extra value you can give to them. So it's a no-brainer. By the time you get to that point, they're like, yep, these guys are the masters at whatever you're selling, and, you can really get them along. And I think, a key thing in all of this, right, is communication. So, it's everything in business. We've got to be able to get our points across and things like that, with, sales, being a key part of obtaining revenue, right? So what do you think we need to focus on, in terms of communicating, to ensure that, our business succeeds?
I think firstly, we need to be aware of our own communication style, and our own buying style. So we go a lot into emotional intelligence, and we were just talking about this before, emotional intelligence and buying drivers and disc profiling, personality profiling, and recognizing that not everybody buys the way that you buy, because that's our default sales person mode, is that I'm going to sell in a way that I feel comfortable, which is the way that I like to buy. And you can alienate a lot of the market by doing that. So learning other people's sales languages is really important. I think we need to learn to communicate the outcome of what you're selling, as opposed to everyone talks about features versus benefits. It's a bit old school, but it still rings very, very true, especially those people that are listening. If you're in tech, I'm not having to go at you, but if you're in IT or technology of some sort, I see it all the time. And I'm not a tech person, but you sell the features of what you offer, and it just becomes very logical. Whereas we know that people don't buy on logic; they buy on emotion and they justify on logic. So have a think about what your core offering is. What does it solve? What problem does it solve? Focus on that, and focus on the outcome for your client, as opposed to what are you going to do. Focus on what they're going to get.
Yeah, I love that, mate. So true, with the emotion and starting off with that emotion to everybody, right? To really pique people's interest. And later you can get into the logic further down the line, but really touch on that. So yeah, really awesome points there, mate. And
just on that as well, actually, I'll give another really clear example if it's okay. People either take action to move away from pain or towards pleasure. But I like the idea that I can inspire people by pleasure, right? I can paint the picture of the future and where we're going to go, blah, blah, blah. But over 90% of people are actually more motivated to get away from pain than they are towards pleasure. And the reason for that is I can't imagine something that hasn't happened before. So when I engaged my public speaking coach, he didn't say, Ryan, imagine standing on stage in front of 1,100 people and how good that would feel. All I wanted to do was not feel scared in front of 3 people. I'll pay you whatever I can to stop feeling like that. I don't want to feel nervous anymore. I just want to feel comfortable in front of a small group of people. And then that is just growing, because I knew what that pain felt like. I knew what the embarrassment, the nervousness felt like, but I couldn't imagine what the elation of standing on stage in front of 1,000 people felt like. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
So there does need to be a bit of a balance, but it does need to be disproportionate towards moving them away from whatever discomfort they're in right now as well.
Yeah, definitely, mate. I completely agree. And once you put that in their mind, and then they're like, I do not want that to happen. And then you can go, well, we can do this otherwise, and it's going to solve your problems, basically.
Yeah.
Love that. So, a lot of people, we're not self-made, right? So, we have a lot of coaches and mentors and people to help us, right, along the way. And you've already mentioned about a public speaking coach. I'm sure you've had others in different areas. So how important has coaching, mentoring been to you and your business and what you've achieved?
Oh, everything. Like, it's one of the most important things that you could ever invest in. It's just you, right? So I got to the age of 29 without ever investing in me. It wasn't a world that I was in. I didn't know about personal development. I'd never been to a seminar or an event. I thought that goal setting and vision boards were fluffy. And I can see my vision board right there now. And then since the age of 29, maybe 30, and I'm 38 now, I've invested just over $300,000 in personal development. And it's not even questionable the growth I've had in that time. So I think and people get a little bit confused around mentors, right? They think they need to pay. I've got lots of mentors and coaches and people that inspire me, and they've never even met me as well. And then on top of that, I've got people that are just friends, and I just respect the way they conduct themselves in some way, shape, or form. So you don't always have to pay for it, but I guess the main message there is being extremely selective of who you surround yourself with. And I know that's a cheesy old phrase as well, which I never used to believe in. But since I've started auditing my network and reducing my exposure to people that don't add value to where I want to go or who I want to become, more fulfilled, achieving more, and just generally happier every single day. So definitely look to create a hit list. So me and my wife did this year. I've started my sentence, so I might as well tell you. So we've got 2 young boys. I've got a 2-year-old. I've got a 4-month-old. And she owns a business and I own a business. And what we've realized is that even some of the people that we've had as friends for 10 years, or 8 years, should I say, we've been together. it's really hard to connect with people if they don't have kids. Firstly, it's hard. They'll tell you they understand what you're going through, but they don't, and they can't, and that's not their fault. And the same thing if people tell you that you say they know what you're going through with as a business owner, they don't, and they can't, and it's not their fault. So we've made a hit list at the start of this year of people in our network that have a business and have kids, because they will get it, and we can have conversations about how maybe they've overcome different challenges in their life. And it's made for a really enjoyable networking throughout the course of this year, and dinners and so forth. So trying to pick those people that are maybe a little bit ahead of where we are in our journey as well.
Yeah, I love that, mate. Completely agree with you. You're, as they say, you're 1/5 of the 5 people you spend the most time with, and your network, is your net worth. And I've done a similar thing. I've cut a lot of people out. And I think it's actually, as much as it's painful, because a lot of us humans, we crave connection, right? So I've actually went through a little period where I didn't see anybody for a little while, because I was like, I would rather not spend time with these people that either are negative people or is going to affect my mindset in whatever way, and, focus on myself, connect with people, whether it's online or just maybe a 1 or 2 select people. And then, like you said, build that up into that environment that you want to be at. And it's a hard choice sometimes, right? Whether they're your school friends or potentially like family or whatever it is like that. But, you have to distance yourself and you have to focus, because like you said, and I love that you said you're focusing on getting those, you got the strategy of, I want to get people like in our situation that are in a similar place, hopefully a bit further down the line, so you can really have those awesome conversations too.
Yeah, it's living life intentionally, right? Like, who do I want to be surrounded with? Like, who's going to become my new mentor this year? And they don't even know, they don't know just yet, but I could have been watching them from afar for a while. I'm totally, I'm in awe of maybe what they do. And one thing I have recognized along the way is, I hope this comes across the right way, the people that I've put on a pedestal, they're all real human beings, right? And I see people on stages, and I've been fortunate enough to share the stage with a lot of really, really successful people over the last couple of years, and they're just real human beings. So now, over time, what I've lost is my fear to reach out to them. Now I'll reach out to anybody. Just, what have I got to lose by asking them? Do you want to go grab a coffee? Would you mind me asking you a couple of questions on a podcast? This is a great foundation to meet and get some free training from people. That's why I've got a podcast. I get to meet some amazing people and learn from them at the same time. And then what can grow from there is great relationships and networking and JVs and so forth as well.
Yeah. Awesome, mate. Love that. So many amazing points, and completely agree. And I guess if we wrap this up a little bit at the end, what one key piece of advice would you give to all the entrepreneurs listening today?
Oh, that's $1 million question as well. One key piece of advice. It's probably going to sound a bit loaded, but I'm going to say it anyway, because I do truly believe in it. Otherwise, I wouldn't have my own business. But learn to communicate the value of what you do. There's no point being an entrepreneur. There's no point starting a business if nobody else sees the value but you, because it's not going to go anywhere. So whatever you need to do, I'm not saying come and use us, but whatever you need to do, go and learn how to truly articulate the value of that to the market, because the market will tell you whether you have a good idea, not you.
Yeah, love that, mate. So awesome there. And really gonna, and that's the power of testing, everyone, at the start of a business, right? And then obviously as you keep going along your journey. So, we met through our networks where I learned about your awesome journey, which took off after being successful on Shark Tank. It's not all about that, but now to impacting, businesses and people across 5 continents. You're a successful entrepreneur that's changing sales in a very positive way, which is awesome. And, you're a great guy, and I'm sure you'll impact this world for the generations to come. So I'm very grateful that we connected, and look forward to working in the future as well, Ryan.
Likewise. I appreciate your time. Thank you so much.
Awesome, mate. And thank you so much as well for your time today. I'm sure many people have benefited from your wisdom. So how can people find you and get in contact with you?
I'm pretty active across the socials. So LinkedIn is really my main go-to, but also Instagram, Facebook, everywhere. So just my full name, Ryan Tuckwood, or alternatively, they can search for Swish Sales Coaching as well. And again, across all the socials.
Yeah. Awesome, mate. Love it. So thank you everyone for watching and listening to this show where we talk about everything on business growth. You can find me on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, and YouTube as Athin Cassiotis, or visit my website, athincassiotis.com. I completely agree with you, or do I? The only way you know is if you tune in next time. So remember, until next time, that our business grows when we learn skills and take action using them in spite of fear. Have a great day.